As a new investor, how do you know where to invest?
This is going to involve a little bit of personal preference from you and a little bit of math.
We're the investor couple. I'm Mel.
I'm Dave.
And we're the investor couple. On this channel, we teach regular people just like you the secrets to time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom through real estate investing.
We post 2 brand new videos every single week and go live at least once. So make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified so you don't miss out on any of the action.
You're excited to get started, you want to buy some properties, but you're not sure where to invest your money.
In this video today, we're going to be discussing different factors that we consider when we're looking at different markets. And like I said earlier, there's going to be a self-reflection on what you want, and then there's going to be stuff that's just factual.
You want to make sure that you get the entire picture so you really make the right decision for yourself. So make sure to stay right till the end. So let's start off by discussing hot markets versus secondary markets. And if you're not sure what that means, let's break it down for you.
So a hot market is a big metropolitan center where deals go quickly, the prices are very high, there's typically a lot of different offers, and there's competition whenever a deal hits the market.
Secondary markets are outskirts area where there might not be quite as much growth and quite as much population.
So why do people invest in hot markets? Well, the major difference between hot and secondary markets is a hot market, the year-over-year appreciation is higher. And you don't necessarily need to really do anything to have that, because the influx of people and inflation will continue that market to appreciate. So you don't necessarily need to do too much, which some people really love.
Hot markets are places like Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver for Canada, and for the States, it's places like New York, Los Angeles, and Miami. And secondary markets are often places you may not have even heard of before.
Yeah, for example, we invest in North Bay, Ontario, Canada, which is about 3.5 hours north of Toronto, so it's considered a secondary market. Now, the reason people invest there is because it will be cheaper, and it's a different play. The market year over year will not appreciate as much as, let's use Toronto in this example. However, you can force the appreciation by renovating and repositioning the asset.
Now let's discuss cap rates, and they're certainly not always calculated the same.
So typically in those hotter markets, the cap rates will be lower, okay? And in the secondary markets, the cap rates will be higher. The cap rate is basically a relation in between the net operating income, which is your income minus all your expenses, not including your mortgage, in regards to the asking price or the purchase price, okay? And the higher the cap rate, typically to most real estate investors, the better the deal. But again, this will depend market to market.
Yes, and now I mentioned that not all cap rates are calculated the same, because some people will not include expenses such as property management, maintenance, and vacancy. And these should be calculated as part of your cap rates. We always ensure to include that.
Okay, so let's calculate how you get the actual cap rate, the capitalization rate. What you end up doing is you take the net operating income that the realtors or the listing agent or the seller gives you, and you divide that by the actual asking price, okay? So in this example here, let's do a $1 million asking price and a $50,000 net operating income. So $50,000 divided by 1 million equals 0.05. So with the scenario right here, we would have a 5% cap rate. This is how quick and easy it is to calculate the cap rate. So again, the cap rate is not the end all be all when looking at a deal. It just lets you know what the deal is doing so that you can decide to either dig deeper or pass on it.
So please take a second, make sure to give us a thumbs up. We very much appreciate it. And also make sure to leave us a comment below. We reply to all messages.
Something else to consider when determining what market you want to invest in is the economic driver of that city, municipality, county, township, whatever you're investing in.
Now, a simple way to look up this information is just using Google, or also speak with the agent.
Now, we have seen some markets crash due to the fact that the major employer in that area shut down or moved to China. Now, for example, this will happen with sawmills, it'll happen with manufacturing, it's happened with car plants. For example, Oshawa, just a couple hours from us, this happened and the market went down. So just know that when you are picking somewhere to invest in, that you do look at what is the economic driving force, who are the big employers, and are they there long term, or is it something that can be shaken up by economic and financial instability in the worldwide market?
Now let's look at some other factors that can absolutely affect your rental property depending where you invest.
So some examples of some real life cities that we know of. So we're in North Bay, Ontario, Canada, like I said before. So if you go about 4 hours north to Timmins, let's say, they're a mining town. If the mining stops, that's going to be a big issue for the housing market there.
Absolutely. It's determined by the company itself, right? Which to me, that's a little bit risky. I don't love putting my money in those kind of markets.
Another example is think out west in California, of all places. Silicon Valley, they are starting a mass exodus. Who would have ever thought that Silicon Valley would move out of California to Texas, of all places? I'm sure that's going to have a long-term effect on the housing market there.
So in conclusion, this will of course be your decision. What do you feel comfortable with? Some people will prefer to invest in a city where they can spread the love, and other people are going to invest in a place where they can count on that one company because they're predicting a huge growth. Essentially, this will be your decision.
Something else to consider when determining a market that you are looking to invest in is vacancy rates. Vacancy rates will differ city to city, market to market. This is something that you can find information on.
Unlike cap rates, where typically higher is better, vacancy rate, you absolutely want them lower. The lower, the better.
And why is that important? Because this will affect your supply and demand. If there is a low vacancy rate, that means that there's not as much supply, okay? So the demand will be higher. Now, if there's a higher vacancy rate, that would mean that there's a higher supply and lower demand, which will ultimately decrease your rent amounts, okay? So if you're buying an income property, you want the income from that property to be as high as possible. Just keep that in mind. Do your research. This is info that you can find easily on Google.
Now, pro tip here, if you are planning to purchase a property and the vacancy rate is very low, I suggest still calculating it at a typical rate. You better be safe than sorry. Even if vacancy is at 1 or 2%, I don't suggest you use that number for your calculations. Even when it's really low, we still allocate between 3 to 5%. Now, a few more things to consider here before we wrap up this video. Firstly, cash flow.
This is something that is typically a personal choice. Some people are okay making $100 a door. Some people need to make $200, $300, $500, whatever it is.
Yeah, and quite often it's based on their why. If somebody loves their job, they're making great money, they like appreciation. If somebody like Dave and I who wanted to quit our full-time jobs, we needed the cash flow in order to do so.
When you're looking at your cash flow, take that into consideration. Are you looking to replace your full-time income, or are you looking for something more of a nest egg for when you retire? Another calculation that I love looking at is some people in hot markets will say, I don't get a lot of cash flow every month, but then every 3 to 5 years they do a massive refinance and then they get a lot of money.
Let's take an example here. If your building appreciates by $200,000 in 3 years, that means if you take that amount divided by 36 months, that you actually cash flow $5,500 monthly.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this was an example that one of our Action Family mentees was talking to me about when they said, I don't cash flow. And then when I broke this number down to her, she went, oh, wow, I guess I did cash flow.
I'm doing something right, yes. Let's also discuss management. Are you going to manage your own property, or will you need to hire a property management company?
This is truly going to depend on how hands-on you want to be. If you want to be actually taking the phone calls from the tenants, doing the repairs, doing the leasing, collecting the rent, all of that, then you're probably going to want to keep something that is fairly close to where you're located. If you're saying, Mel, Dave, I want nothing to do with any of that, I'm going to hire a property manager and I'm going to outsource every single aspect that you just spoke about, well then you could pretty much invest anywhere because there's property managers and people that can take care of your property all throughout North America.
Now, I do want to add as well that even if you're investing in your own city, maybe you're going to outsource your property management. Example, Dave and I, we invest in our city, but we have our entire team. So yes, we are completely hands-off when it comes to property management, but we still get to oversee it.
And last up is comfortability. What do we mean by comfortability? Now, I see a couple of different things in this. What I want to start off with in this section is what type of units are you looking to invest in? You know, what is something that you actually truly love and that you want to spend your time and money into? For example, recently I've been looking at some massive buildings and some massive portfolios. Let's say, for example, in Arizona and Florida, they have these 300 plus apartment buildings that have pools, recreation facilities. Like, these are built to house a lot of people. And typically I don't find that exact type of build in Canada. Another thing is these massive mobile home parks. More and more I'm looking at them and going, wow, there's a 200 unit mobile home park And there's lots of them throughout the US. And that's just something that Mel and I are looking at investing in these types of properties in the near future. So that means if I'm looking for these massive trailer parks or these massive multifamily complexes, I will need to go to the cities that actually have them.
Now, in order to succeed, this is the key. You need to have a strong network. Your network is your net worth, and that's exactly what we have because we have the Action Family Mentoring Program. We're connected with people across North America that we're able to reach out to. So that way, when we do invest outside of our area, we know, like, and trust the person.
Now, the other point that I want to touch on with comfortability is some people think I live in the province of Ontario, so I only invest here because I know the province, I know the provincial governing bodies, all those types of things. Or they're thinking I only want to invest in my state because I know my state. Something else, I only want to invest in my city. That could be another thing because I know my city. I only want to invest in my country because I don't want to start getting implications with taxes from two different countries. So whatever your comfort zone is, just make sure to be true to you and follow that.
And of course, do your due diligence. If you're going to invest outside of your area, you have to know the laws and regulations.
So these are the things that we want you to consider when you're deciding what market, what area, what country you're going to be investing your money and your time in.
Now that you have the tools to decide which market to invest in, you may want to apply the BRRRR strategy. It was life-changing for us, so make sure to watch this next video. I'm Mel.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you there.